So I've decided to approach your lab a little differently this week, just to kind of give you a little bit of a break. I'm going to introduce how to make quality control charts in Excel in this video, and then, if you can follow along with what I'm doing and recreate it on your own, well, that'll give you a good chunk of the marks. And then, so that'll be for question 1. And then for question 2, you'll do it yourself, but you should be able to, it's basically repeating what we did in the question 1, all right? So let's get into it. I'll show you how to make quality control charts in Excel. So the first thing you want to do is read the question. Once each day, 3 specimens of motor oil are randomly selected from the production process, and each is analyzed to determine viscosity. So if you don't know what viscosity is, it's basically a thickness or stickiness of a fluid. The table on the right, so this over here, gives the data for a 25-day period. So there's been 25 days where they're doing these tests, and they've apparently taken 3 samples every single day. And so that makes for 75 samples in total, or 25 days worth of samples. Extensive experience with the process suggests that when the process is in control, the viscosity of a specimen is normally distributed with a mean of 10.5 and a standard deviation of 0.036. Use the data to construct a control chart for this company. So, all right, what do we need when we make a control chart? We need 4 things, really. First, we need the sample means. Okay, so you want to double click on that to widen it up. Sample means. You're also going to want a center line for your chart. Widen that up by double clicking. You're also going to want the lower control limit and the upper control limit. So I always add these in here just because I'm going to need to make columns, and it'll make sense by the end of this. But that's really our 4 things we need. We need our sample means, our center line, lower control limit, and upper control limit. So how do we get these things? Well, let's see. It's kind of up to you where you start, but I'm going to start with the center line. The center line is the target value, or the mean of your samples here. Sorry, not the mean of the samples, the mean of the population. So basically, coming out of this company, they're shooting for a 10.5 viscosity. So the center line is going to be at 10.5. The upper control limit, remember our formula. Our formula is the mean plus 3 times the standard deviation. So I'm going to say equals to the mean, 10.5, or I could have clicked this cell there, equals 10.5 plus 3 times the standard deviation, which from my question is 0.036. So my upper control limit, the highest possible viscosity I want for this process, will be 10.608. My lower control limit, remember it's mean minus 3 sigma. So equals our mean minus 3 times our sigma, our standard deviation, 0.036. So now I have my most important pieces of information here. So I'm going to use that information to fill in some more of my data here. And once I do that, it's going to be a pretty easy process of making a line chart or a control chart for the situation. So before you chart anything, the control charts, the quality control charts, all of your data points usually are actually sample means. So right now we have 25 days, remember? And we have 3 samples for each day. I'd like to get the average of those means, or the average of those samples for every day. So I'm going to say average, that's my formula. Open a bracket. I want the average of those 3 samples, and there we are. So I want to do that for every day. I want the average of these samples for every day. So I'm going to scroll it down, and there we go. That's the average for every single day. So that's going to be pretty important. Those are different values. Those are the ones that I'm going to chart when I do this. The center line, the lower control limit, the upper control limit, I'm just going to copy those. 10.5, this I'm looking from the left. 10.5, 10.608, and 10.392. Did I get that right? Upper control. See, I wasn't careful there. I did those backwards. So the upper control is the bigger one, the lower control is the smaller one. So I've got to change those around. The lower control, 10.392, and upper is 10.608. Okay, so now everything's copacetic. So what we do is a weird thing, is we take each of these and we'll scroll it down to copy. All right, you just make a column completely filled with the center line, a column completely filled with the lower control limit, and a column completely filled with the upper control limit. And what that does is it tells Excel how to plot it. So when you have these 4 columns, sample means and center line and so on, just highlight from the table, from the top of it, all the way to the bottom right, go to Insert, and you can use recommended charts or you can use the first line chart, but I'll just click recommended because it's pretty smart. Look, choose the one that looks like a quality control chart. That's okay. So this is not quite what I want yet, but it's close. I got to do a few adjustments. So I'm going to first make it bigger because, you know, my eyesight is not what it used to be. And make it look like a standard quality control chart. But before I do that, let me just show you where everything came from. This bottom line there, this green, is the lower control limit. It's plotted this number over and over and over again, making this nice straight line on bottom. Same thing for the upper control limit. So this column tells it to make a straight line from start to finish. The middle is our center line. That's the mean, or the target value, the desired viscosity. And our blue line here that's jimmying up and down, those are our sample means. And so it's got everything we need all in one place. This is a quality control chart. I can also see, if you're clever, this is out of control in a number of places, but I'm just going to worry about formatting it first. So I'm going to change the title to something useful. What is it? Viscosity of motor oil. Didn't really ask to change the title, but it kind of didn't make sense before. You know, it used to be called, what, chart title? You don't want that. Give it a catchy title. What else do we need to do? We need to make these lines into dashed lines, or dots at least. So how do you do that? You click on it. This menu for you might not already be up. So you right click on it, Format Data Series, and it'll bring up the sidebar. What you're going to want to do is click around in here until you find how to make dashed lines. And you'll go to Fill and Line, and then make sure you're on line, not marker, that's something different, line, and then try to find one that'll make it dashed, and that's under Dash Type. I like to click the 4th one down because it just looks the best, in my opinion. The other ones are a little awkward, but you can use them. It's just, you know, I prefer this one. It makes more sense. It looks more standard. Was that the right one? This one. Yeah. So we've got these nice dashed lines. Do the same thing for the green. Okay. And then we're almost where we need to be. I just need to put markers on these lines because really in quality control charts, sometimes we have the lines, a lot of times we have them connected, but they definitely have some sort of marker to show you exactly where the data point is. So you're going to want to go Fill and Line again, and then under Marker, it's hidden. It's really a pain in the butt. It's under Marker Options. You're going to want to click one of these. Built-in is what I prefer because it gives you more control, and you can choose what it looks like. You can even put like a picture on these if you want. You can put like a smiley face or like your own face or I don't know, something crazy. But choose the one that appeals to you. I just like a simple circle. So I've clicked it and you can see all the markers are now circles. If they're not big enough for you, you should go in and make them bigger. So marker and option size. If you want to kick them up a notch, you can make them a bit bigger, a little more obvious. You can change the color if you feel like it. So for example, you might want it to be black on the outside. I think there's a fill in here somewhere. Let's see, fill, it's all these sub-menus, right? But if you wanted black dots, so it's like super obvious, that's how you could do it. But that's kind of the gist of it. You've made a quality control chart now. And all the legend is, you don't need to delete any of this because this is all useful. You can see the sample days all the way up to 25. It's really nice. And it's actually not that difficult in Excel to produce a chart that looks nice. The only thing I would suggest maybe if you wanted to is this middle line. You could change it to green. For example, if you wanted to do that, you'd go into Format. Sorry, you could actually, there's a little bit of a shortcut. Make sure you click right on the line. If you right click it, you can change the fill and outline right here. So you could change the outline, for example, to green. You could do the same thing for this line. You can make it red, and you could also make this line red. because those are kind of standard colors. They remind people that this is what you're dealing with. These are actually bad lines to go past. But that's up to you. It's up to you what color you really want to make them in the end of the day. As long as the legend is clear, you should be okay. For example, some people like to make them slightly different shades of red so that it's more obvious that they're two different things. But again, that's up to you. If you've got the shape, then it will be assumed how this works. There's just a center line, an upper limit, and a lower limit, okay? So we haven't actually analyzed our data yet. We need to decide if this is in control or out of control. And we've got a bunch of rules for that. We've got our beyond our limits. We've got zone A, zone B, zone C. Really, for the purposes of this lab, we're just going to look at the beyond limits point. So if it goes beyond our limits of our upper limit and our lower limit, if it's beyond that, which it clearly is, it's out of control. So you're going to want to fill in this box. The process is out of control, and you know because many points are going beyond the limits. And it's a really good idea. It says circle any key points to circle your key points. So you want to go to Insert and Shapes, and I choose the circle, oval really, and then go looking for your points and circle them. So you can go like this, and then you're going to want to make that empty. So fill, no fill, outline, red is pretty common, and now we've got our circle there. If you want to be really fancy, I'll show you that again. You want to be really fancy, go into your circles, and as you go to circle them, hold Shift. If you're holding Shift, it'll make a perfect circle. You can see I can't even make an oval if I tried right now. So you can make a perfect circle, and right-click on it, make the fill empty. You can make the outline red, and if you want to, you can move it around. Make it perfect. You can make it smaller if you want to. That's totally up to you, but as long as you've circled all the important points. I'm going to cheat a little. I'm going to press Control-C on this and copy, and hopefully I can just paste it around and get where I need to be here. Okay, so this is my basic diagram, and just because, I feel like those circles look better, and delete that first one too. But that's up to you. I've just labeled the points. Other people might not circle them. They might put an X on them and say this is not okay. It's totally up to you at that point, but you need to show me somehow that this is out of control. So you'd fill in this box, say it's out of control. How do you know? Well, because it's beyond the limits. You have points beyond the limits. And then circle the key points. I've circled it. Right? So that's how you get your marks. Center line, upper control limit, lower control limit. All of this with the correct formatting, so dashed lines on top and bottom, markers on your chart, and circled points if necessary, and then fill in this information. So that's how you do number 1. For question number 2, I'm not going to show you how to do question number 2 because it's good, you can just re-watch how to do question number 1 and do a similar process for question number 2. The main difference is, of course, it's a different set of data, and there's a less in the menu here, or in the column. So let's read the question. Over a 24-hour period, samples of 6 fiber optic cables were tested to measure the refractive index. Don't really need to know what the refractive index means, but it's how light is bent as it goes through an object. Based on past experience, the standard deviation of this process is known to be 0.53. The sample means are given in the table on the right. Construct a control chart for the data, then answer the question. So fill in these boxes and make the chart. So it says the sample means are given. So it doesn't give you all the different, what is it looking for here again? Samples of, I guess we're measuring the refractive indices. Based on my physics background, I'm pretty sure these are not refractive indices. I think they have to be much smaller than that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that we're trying to make a quality control chart for this. And we haven't been given the 6 samples per hour. We've just been given the sample mean. All of this is to say that we're not given the observations themselves. They've already done the sample means for us. So you don't need to do anything like this. It's already there. All you need to do is get these 3 columns, the center line, the lower control limit, and the upper control limit. So you'll fill those in here. Make sure that you copy them. Remember, center line is the mean. But in this question, it hasn't given you the mean. All right, so how are you going to get the mean to use? How are you going to find the center line? Well, in the absence of any other information, you're going to need to get it's the mean, right? So you need to get the average of all this that you've been given, because it hasn't given it to you here. So get the average of all these guys. This will be your center line. So you'll say 96.54. You can use that as your center line because we don't have enough information to do anything else, and you should be good to go. Use that to calculate your UCL, your LCL, and answer the rest of the questions. So that's it for this lab. I hope that was clear. If it's not clear, as always, please just send me an email or something. I'm happy to go through it with you. And wishing you all the best. So all you need to do this week is this lab and then the other assignment, of course. And we're on to the final unit. Take care.